And yesterday was a practice that was good to have because we had 5 games in 11 days. And as much as we try to fundamentally improve in those practices, it's very hard when you're having that amount of games to go to the duration and go to the length of the intensity level inside of that duration that you want to get. And yesterday was very, very good for us to break that down, whether it was 2-on-2, whether it was countless sessions of 4-on-4, with competitive parts of getting 3 stops in a row for your team in there. And everything you do is about getting better at every aspect of it. Are we getting better shooting the ball, moving without the ball? Are we getting better with the rebounding? Are we getting better with our defensive coverages? Are we getting better at guarding the ball? Are we getting better with our help? And we spent a lot of time on that, a lot of time. And a lot of time on our interior defense, a lot of time on our guarding the ball. I think the biggest thing that our players will take from the other night is that, especially our young ones, I'm not sure that they truly understood the speed of the game, you know, and I don't want to say that it surprised them, but I think the surprise is when you're really good and when you're young, you win a lot of games or you have a lot of success, the other team goes away. At this level, they don't go away. They do not go away, and this team had such an ability to play downhill that I think we learned a lot about that. And I think with the exception of Yogi, and he doesn't do it all the time, but when Yogi's truly in a downhill game, he's very hard to guard. Well, they had some different guys that were in a downhill game. And as much as we think we are, we learned a lot about it that we're not as much. And we've got to continue to get better at that. We did not handle the intensity of their drives as well. Our switching was sporadic. And the biggest thing that we wanted to do was keep them out of the paint, but at the same time not have to overhelp on threes. Until late, we did a good job on the 3. We did not do a great job of keeping them out of the paint. And then when the game was in the balance, you know, we had some of those mistakes. We didn't block out a couple times. Late in the game, when number 10 made a 3 at the top, where we were never supposed to leave, we had the ball under control. And Nick ended up helping on the dribble, and we had the dribble under control, and we give up a 3 at the top of the key. One of the big reasons we led the league in 3-point defense was because we didn't overhelp last year. When the ball was covered, we moved, and it took us a while to learn that. And I think it's important for all of us as coaches to keep that in perspective, that it takes a while for that to get done. Because this team had tremendous ability to drive the ball to create threes. And unfortunately, we gave them too many angles to get to the rim to finish shots. And in the bottom line, 55, we never matched his intensity. And we never matched his intensity and the spirit of toughness that he played with the entire night. And we knew that as coaches going into the game. We tried to get that across on film, but until they see it and deal with it, I mean, it's very rare that you have a player that plays that position that facilitates the offense all the different ways that he can facilitate it. But they're a very good team. They're one of those teams that all of a sudden it's the second week of the tournament in March and everybody's talking about them and they're everybody's favorite team to follow because they're exciting to watch. I mean, they could be that type of team. And the bottom line is you don't want to lose, but you want to learn a lot from it. You want to learn from winning, and you better make sure when you lose you learn a lot from that too. And that's what we're trying to get across as much as anything else. Big key points for us right now. We've got to get we've got to score more points in the paint, and at the same time we've got to take away more scoring opportunities in the paint for the other team because we're just letting the ball get in there too much, too many different times. And I think it's going to be crucial that we do a much better job with that. And defensively in transition, we've got to keep getting back to find people. But the bottom line is we've just got to improve our ability to guard the ball, to keep it out of the paint, at the same time not become a team that overhelps and gives up threes, because in this league then you will not win. Offensively, we can play faster, especially getting the ball out of the basket. When we just run and get behind the defense like Troy did, you saw the benefits of that. We get out and run the wings when the ball is moving the way that it's capable of. It's important. But again, looking at our youth of our team, especially with James and Rob, the learning lesson there is your defensive energy and being so locked in and engaged to what you have to do defensively. That's what creates your offense. I thought the SMU game and the Lamar game, James's defense, where he came out and again, nobody was playing what I would characterize as bad defense. We weren't as good. We gave up angles. We weren't as ready for that ball coming at us. Our switches, like I mentioned, weren't as good. We weren't as aware at times, especially when we went zone late. But the bottom line is we weren't as aggressive on offense as we needed to be either. You know, Rob having 4 turnovers and 3 or 4 of those passes were one-hand passes. That's not fundamental basketball. James wasn't as aggressive as he needs to be, looking for a shot, looking for the drives, things of that nature. Yogi, the game was giving us middle drive. They were giving us the rim. And you could look back and say we were giving them the rim, not on purpose, but they were giving us the rim. And Yogi did a tremendous job of taking advantage of that, and Troy did a tremendous job of getting behind in that penetration. So every time we had downhill action going, we got something good. The problem was we weren't downhill enough, and they were downhill a lot, and we didn't stop it. And downhill is not just driving the ball and covering a little bit of ground. Downhill is driving it like a bull rush, and that ball is out in front, and you're just daring somebody to stop you. And we didn't do as good a job with that. And bottom line, when a team's giving up 12 threes, or when a team is scoring 12 threes a game, you've got to be very conscious of that. And but unfortunately, it wasn't that we didn't overhelp, we just didn't guard the initial thrust of driving the way that we needed to guard it as well. But we got better yesterday, I have no doubt about that. Today we'll be off the court, but do some road trip team bonding type of stuff. Tomorrow we'll be back at it. Friday night we'll play against a very hungry, hard driving, tough playing team that has 2 guys averaging 60 and another guy 12, well coached with Wes Miller, and outstanding staff. Mike Roberts is on that staff, who played here, had a very good career. You've got Dwayne Simpkins Jr., who played at Maryland, outstanding young coach. Jackie Manuel played at Carolina, played a little bit in the NBA. He's on that staff. So I got 4 former head coaches on my staff, but we don't want to play 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 against that staff on the court. But we're excited for that game and excited for a big crowd, and get ready for next week. So go ahead.
With your stop and defensive penetration, what's the bigger issue there? Is it technique or communication?
It's technique as much. We had a couple of miscommunications. I mean, we had some rules that really, if you follow them, are very simple. Okay, but they're hard to do. They're simple. I mean, we knew exactly what we were supposed to switch, but you have to stay with it, because a team like that is going to continue to turn the ball, turn the ball, turn the ball. And if that means one guy's guarding it the whole time on that switch, well, that's what it means. And we didn't want to. We decided to diversify a little bit. You know, because we thought we had a better angle at guarding it, or, you know, I could get through it. That's not what you do, you know, when you have a game plan like that. And I think they've got to learn that game plans are built for a reason. Tim Buckley averages probably, on a scout like that, he's probably putting in 17, 18-hour days, as is Steve when he's doing his games, and Chuck when he's doing his games, and we're all spending time on that game and all doing our stuff. But those game plans are built for a reason. You know, or when a guy goes right, or a guy shoots this, or a guy gets there, it's built for a reason. You know, and we don't expect the players, obviously, to spend that kind of time in the film room. We do expect that kind of concentration and focus and listening. And it wasn't there as much the other night. And that's what we've got to continue to learn. It wasn't there because they didn't want it to be there. It was there because the fatigue of the game and the speed of the game brings some slippage that can hurt you at times inside of it. So it's not, a little bit of it's technique. When it's a player-driven, he drives right, he drives left type of thing. But very much on a penetration team, it's about taking away the elbows, especially with the dribble drive, the way that they play it. And they do an excellent job with it. And what makes it a problem is they've got 5, outside of their starting lineup, which they went to, they had 5 players on the floor at any given time that could play behind the line and play at the rim. And that's why they're a good team. That's why you got to stay true to your game plan that much more.
Tom, have you coached a lot of teams? Have you had some that struggled defensively in the first 5 or 6 games, or in November, but come February, we're much better? Oh,
absolutely. I look back at last 3 years of 5-game stats. I forgot that we beat Long Island by 1 in here, you know, on the 2nd game of the year a year ago. And we've had close games. I mean, it takes a while for young teams figure out that it does not matter who they're playing. And again, I think our players saw film early on, okay, of their three-point shooting, that we had everybody's attention. Okay, so there's no overlook, look-throughs, none of that. You know, there's none of that, and we work against that constantly. You can't make up the kind of threes they were making. Okay, I mean, you don't even make a highlight tape. You just put their possessions on. But it takes a while for guys to understand, oh, this is for real. I mean, and they're coming constantly. It was like a year ago when we played Long Island. No, that's the best assist guy in the country. All right, we've got to guard him at a high level, all right, and not overhelp, because he's going to find people for layups and dunks and threes. And so, again, it's really, really learning to take those strengths. They work into that. We spend a lot of time on preparation, but we spend a lot more time on concepts. And we've got to continue to get that down. We've got to continue. We see the improvement. I mean, I gave an example. The defensive blockouts are improving, grabbing the 50-50s, grabbing two-hand rebounds. I mean, think about it. They don't have anybody on the foul line. They missed the free throw. We have two guys going for the ball. They both grab at it with one hand. Neither one of them gets it. It goes out of bounds, their possession. We give up three. You know, that's, sometimes it's just, I mean, it's not like anybody's saying, hey, let's go grab it with one hand, but the slippage comes in. You think it's a little easier than it is. And they've got to understand that it's really, it's a hard driving game constantly when you're playing against good teams. And teams that want to be great too. So I have no doubt we'll get better. I have no doubt about it. And 5 and 11, you can look at it one of two ways. Was it too much at this point in time for a young team? Probably. All right, am I glad we did it? Absolutely. Because they had to work through the number one thing that we're going to have, as any team has to have, to sustain, to have any type of sustainability. We didn't have it last year. We had it the 2 previous years. All right, is a consistent level of mental toughness. Now, how do you define it? You kind of know it when you see it. But you've got to keep going through all these different things that make you better there. And that's why we'll continue to get better.
Did you give any thought to playing Emmett or Jeremiah, considering where Hunter was the other night?
Not Jeremiah in that game. Game was too fast. Emmett, absolutely, but this is where the 4 games probably caught up in this, because the speed of the game was really, really hard for the guys that had been playing a lot of minutes. And it wasn't anything that Emmett's not doing. And as I've said to him, and we were counting on Emmett. But that game was going so fast for a guy that didn't have real game experience like that. And now if he'd have played the last couple games considerable minutes or hadn't missed the 4 games, that's a whole other story. But that game was moving so fast that, and again, playing small was not the wrong way to do it. Our mistakes came more out of switches and lack of communication, or some lack of communication, but just letting the ball get by us. But Emmett will be very good for us. I mean, we definitely need him to get in the rotation. The game was moving much too fast. It was very much perimeter oriented for Jeremiah in that game. And again, he's making strides. He was in here early that morning working with us. He was in here that afternoon, not only for a walkthrough, but for extra work. I mean, he's going to get better and better too. But when it's game time, you got to go with the guys that you think are going to give you the best chance to win. And hopefully both of them will as we move on. And it's definitely time that Emmett's got to get this experience now, because we're going to need him. And like I said, perfect world, he's in there. But it's not a perfect world, or he wouldn't miss 4 games.
Okay. Last question, Zach.
I guess in that same vein, I think Hunter played 14 minutes. I know you said he had a much better second half than first half, but you've also talked about just that for a lot of different reasons, his first 2 seasons, he wasn't able to get a lot of court time because of fouls and inconsistency and some injuries and different things. What's the balance for him, I guess, between letting him play through mistakes and when you need to get him off the floor to show him something, coach him through something, or maybe even just make a point to him?
Sure, that's a great point. It's a very good question, and it's I could give you a real long answer because there's a lot of things that go into it. Not that I ever give long answers. I know mine are usually really short. But don't laugh. I won't do these anymore. I'll just give you those. I'll give you the. He wanted to go with the quotes. I said no. We need to all be together. And I wanted to do it tomorrow morning, but then JD talked me out of that. But
you have to answer my wife at that.
You'd have to answer your wife. Answer your editor.
My editor's on vacation.
But here's the bottom line with your question. when he's really playing hard, okay, like down in front of the ball, hands are up, not indecisive on is he going to try to get in position or is he going to try to leave his feet. There's a level of engagement that Hunter has when he's really, really moving and not overthinking. And then there's a little bit less than that when he's unsure. And he's got to grow through that. So does he need court time to do that? Absolutely. But there were times when the game was moving really fast inside of that the other night for him. And especially in the switching. I mean, we didn't start out the game in a full 55, which is everybody switches, but we wanted to get to that. But he didn't do a great job of plugging up that basket on penetration, you know, early on in the game. And wasn't aggressive, I didn't think, as he needed to be. We've asked a lot of him. I mean, look at what's his career minutes compared to what he's played already. I mean, has he passed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so not making excuses. It's just, it's part of it. I mean, the 5 games in 11 days probably caught him a little bit too. But I thought he came back in the second half. I think, again, for him, that level of engagement and awareness is so huge that he just can't get quiet. Can't get quiet in the game, and it's not about, you know, doing this or doing that. It's coming out and absolutely playing hard. And hard means getting down, thinking about making plays, being aggressive, getting on the glass, blocking shots, but most importantly, being a presence. And sometimes he forgets that he's got a 7'6" wingspan. And sometimes he forgets to get down in that stance the way that he needs to. And I think when he does that, he's really, really hard to deal with. But he's going to get, or no, he's hard to deal with when he gets down in that stance and he's playing with that length. And we've got to get him more and more consistent. But the number one thing for him has been his consistency of improvement. And for him, you know, comparing him to where Cody would be or comparing him to where Noah would be, that wouldn't be fair to anybody. But having him continue to get to the level of consistency that he needs to be at, we're well on our way to, and he came back yesterday and was outstanding, you know, as was Emmett. So we've got to get more. We've got to be, the lane defense starts with your ball pressure, starts with your ability to contain the dribble. It really does. So our post defense wasn't as much of a problem the other night as our ball pressure and our lack of ability to keep the ball out of the paint. And that's what we want to continue to work on. Now we've had a couple issues with it, but that was what it was more than anything else the other night. Okay, happy Thanksgiving.